All right, we're recording live from Jersey City.
Yeah, don't give our location away, all right? You don't want these stats coming after you.
No, yeah, absolutely. Live from New Jersey.
What's up, man? How you been?
Good, 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 man. How are you?
I'm good, man. I heard that you were getting ready to do some stand-up comedy, and I was like, I got to hit this guy up because I heard you were about to do some stand-up comedy,
Right, right.
and so I wanted to ask you, how did you get into that? Like, what got you interested into to stand-up comedy? Is that something you're just kind of giving a try, or you want to make it like a prolonged career?
Well, I don't think I'm really looking forward to make it as a career or anything. It's simply it's really something new, and
Yeah.
I've been really watching a lot of stand-up comedy, and it's I think it's really amazing just to have a microphone and walk on the stage and engage audience with you, like in personal stories, or like if you're trying to make like a social commentary or anything interesting like that, and basically maybe to get some laughs, you know?
Yeah, yeah. So one of the reasons why I asked you that because I've been thinking about doing stand-up comedy as well, like to go into an open mic and just like riffing
Yes,
it.
yes.
So
That was my
so
idea
so
too.
uh,
That was
so
my idea too.
so that's why I was like, all right, if Aki is just getting started into doing comedy, I was like, and I was because I was having a conversation with my wife about it like 2, 3 weeks, and I was like, we're getting coffee, we're walking back, and I'm like, hey, I
Yeah.
think I want to go to an open mic and do that, and she turns to me, she's like, what, like, like what? You're not funny, like,
Oh my
what the fuck are?
God.
She's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like doing stand-up comedy? Like, where did you come out of that from?
Right, right.
And and so then like a week later, we're at home and then we're just kind of sitting on the couch. And then she turns to me and she's like, oh, like, let's go out. I'm like, where do you want to go out? And she's like, oh, let's go to a comedy club.
Oh,
So
nice.
we went to our first comedy club in New York. I think it's called the New York Comedy Club. And that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And you're right, like just like going and up on stage and like making people laugh and kind of making their day and then like a mixture of like your experience, your stories, along with like maybe a sprinkle like of bullshit,
Right, right.
is
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's always have to be like some lies and some bullshit just to,
yeah,
to get the creativity out there and feel about yourself that you can actually put a story together somehow.
yeah.
Uh,
So
yeah.
are you doing creative writing on the back end? Because I know there's a lot of prep work that goes into to
Right.
stand comedy.
So I've been really watching a lot and watching a lot of comedians and listening to podcasts with comedians and see like how they really do this. And you're right, a lot of people really do like creative writing, and it's funny because some of the ones that I really like so much, they just they don't do any creative writing. They said like, oh, it's all in the head, it's all in my mind. And once I put it down on the paper, it's like they lose connection somehow. They're like, oh, I can't really remember it anymore. It doesn't really go. But sometimes they do like some recordings, like a voice recording for the joke or anything, and then they listen to it and they're like, okay, yeah, I gotta make it to look like this. I want to make sure like I don't really forget this part. This part is very important for me. So honestly, yeah. I think I'm gonna do some writing since I'm like, it's a very, very like beginner. Like I don't really
Yeah.
know like what's gonna be the story, and I want to tell you like how the story actually happened. So I'm like exactly similar to your story. I'm just laying on the bed watching some Instagram videos for like stand-up comedy as well, and I'm just laughing, and I'm like, this is cool, man. Like, I want to do this. Like, I want to see like how I can really get involved in stand-up comedy and see. And right there, I just went online to search for open mic. Same thing, and I was like, I just want to do open mic and see like how it goes. and I applied for 10 places. And then 2 days after, I wake up in the morning and get a phone call. Guy, like, hello. I'm like, hi. He's like, this is Aki. I'm like, yeah. He's like, are you a comedian? You tried to say some jokes. I'm like, yeah, not really. And he was like, "Oh yeah, but you applied. Are you like you do like stand up?" And I was like, "I'm actually starting, and I don't really." He's like, "Okay, listen, if you want to start, I can give you 5 minutes. I got it's gonna be in March 22nd in Broadway Club at 53rd Street and 8th Avenue. It's gonna be in New York." So yeah, he's like, "Listen, I'm gonna do the flyers for you." I'm gonna talk to you like maybe 2 days, 3 days before the show, and we'll see how it goes. If you're good, I'll give you more days. I was like, okay, yeah. And I don't know, it's very exciting.
Yeah, it definitely is. It sounds like that's amazing though, like how you were watching a video and like that's what inspired you. That's very cool.
Right, right,
So
right. Yep.
you were, but you were into photography. I remember you were into photography for a long time. I
Right.
remember you were working in the city. Um, what was like, how'd you get into photography? Because I remember that was like your passion and like filmmaking, I remember to a certain
Right,
aspect
right,
too. And
right. Photography and
that
filmmaking. Yep, both of them.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was very cool too. How'd you get into that?
Uh, I think it used to be always like photography and filmmaking. They used to be always like a very far fields from what I really studied because I studied engineering, and my family was really pushing me into this engineering path. You know, you have to be an engineer, you have to have a degree with this, and I'm like, yeah, but I don't like it. You know, and it just it's so bizarre.
Uh,
So I had to suffer for like few years, and I'm like, oh my God. And I remember that I used to like films a lot, especially when I back in college. This is like in my 20s when I used to have any holidays or especially like in the summertime when there is no school or anything. I used to watch like back-to-back movies. And I remember also having the same thing that it happened to me with the video when I was watching for the stand-up. It had the same thing. I was watching movies over and over, and I'm like, how can you do a movie? How's this be possible? And I just also happened to listen to some directors, and they mentioned as well they were very interested in photography and pictures, and this what got them to filmmaking. So this is how they started. And I remember I told my dad one day, I told him because my dad used to travel for work all the time, and I told him one time, hey dad, and every time of course like he will ask us, do you want anything? Uh, sh- do you want any specific thing that I should bring to you? And I remember this time I told him, can you bring me a camera? Like a very small, semi-professional camera. And he was like, I don't know anything about cameras. You gotta tell me, like, what's the model, what's it called? Like, I don't know what to say to the guy. And I did some research, and I told him, oh yeah, I want this camera. He's like, oh my God, this is very expensive camera now. And I'm like, yeah, but maybe I don't know, like, but he was cool. Like, he got me the camera, and yeah, I just got the camera and I went crazy, just taking pictures and.
It's
Uh,
it's it's funny, like Middle Eastern parents, Asian parents, I think like the mindset is similar in terms of like when it comes to their kids and the kids' success. It's like
Absolutely.
you got to be a doctor, you got to be a lawyer or an engineer,
Yep.
and it's like the world. It's like I feel like they're still stuck in like the 1900s, while like technology and like uh, the world has shifted past that. Like you could be successful in like anything as long as like if it's unique, it's different. like you could really be successful and also kind of like following your passion along
Right.
the way. Like you could be showing your tits on OnlyFans and like
Right.
make
Or
10
feet,
times
or
more
your
than
feet.
all your feet. Oh my God, yeah. So yeah, I mean, I remember similar to like uh, to my parents saying the same thing, like, "Oh, you lawyer, you got to be a lawyer." So
Right.
I remember when I was in college, I studied one of my majors was law, and I applied to law school, and I was getting ready to go to law school, but then I remember like seeing like the invoice of what my first bill was going to be for college,
Yeah.
and at the time, like financial aid wasn't going to cover me, so I was like, okay,
Yeah.
what the fuck am I doing? It was like a light bulb moment for me. Like, what's the point of pursuing something I don't like? It's
Right.
expensive as hell,
Right.
and I'm just not passionate about it. So, yeah, it's interesting with Middle Eastern parents and Asian parents.
Oh, 100%. I have a hard time. I really, really had a hard time. Like I used to really hate school. I used to really, argue a lot and uh, I used to run away sometimes. They used to look for me and stuff, like, oh my God, we don't know where he is. And I used to just like, go to my grandparents most of the time without saying a word. I'm just like, I'm out. Like I'm just leaving this house and I'm leaving this. I'm not going to the college anymore. And it was really hard time for me until I graduated and I got my degree, of course. But I remember it was really tough because you're right. They have the same mindset. They're like, okay, you got to be a doctor and or a pharmacist
Yep,
or
yep.
uh, or also they like for some reason also they like government stuff. Oh, you gotta be. I had a hard time with my dad telling me that I have to be a pilot, like a government pilot, or I have, and I'm like, how? But I'm short, like I just can't. And also like I'm not really fit. He's like, oh no, you don't have to. I'm like, no, I have to. Like my dad is not fit as well, like, and I'm like, I'm not fit as well. I'm like, I can't be like being in the military or being like in a government pilot or anything like that. And I had a hard time with him. He had me to go through all the exams and stuff, and I'm like, oh my God. Yeah.
I think your dad and my dad would really get along because my dad also wanted me to be a pilot at one point, and but I think I got very lucky because my older brother always kind of got he was like the filter before like the shit got to me, so like it would hit him first,
And they come to
and then
you.
it would come to me. So like so my dad wanted all of us to maybe not be pilots, but get our pilot license. So my dad put my brother through pilot school, and he
Oh,
like
wow.
went through 40 hours of flying, and then did a uh
No
solo
way.
flight. Yeah, yeah, and he was like this close to getting his pilot license. He even had passed the exam, but I think it was the '08 recession when everything went to shit.
Yeah.
Housing values dropped, stock market crashed, the economy collapsed. Pretty much the world seemed like it had stopped. And
Right.
I remember my dad getting a heart attack from the stress, and like he just couldn't work. So we had to
Oh, wow.
stop all like this extra stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so he ended up not doing his pursuing his pilot license after that. I think he maybe wasn't passionate about it himself, but like didn't have the heart to tell my dad.
Right,
And then
right,
so
right.
then my dad got to me after like 3 4 years later when things did get a little normal. And then I
Yeah.
remember doing like 10 15 hours of flying lessons. But then my dad and I got into a spat, and he was like, you know what, fuck you, I'm not even paying for your flight school anymore.
Oh my
So
God.
yeah, yeah, it's interesting. Like parents, but I think it all comes from a good place where they're like, you know what, we love our kids, we just want our kids to succeed.
Oh, 100%, 100%. They love us, like they really love us, they really care for us. But I think it's always like their way. It have to be their way. Otherwise, they believe it's not gonna happen for you somehow. And they
Yeah.
think also that whatever they think is the right way, and whatever you think, you're just childish. You don't know really what's right for you. And now I look at myself and I'm like, I'm 37. I make most of my income from camera operating. I did camera different. I worked with different cameras, like video cameras. I did some YouTube web series, very professional for like some comedians. I did it's like comedy sketches, so it's
Yeah.
almost kind of like also story and filmmaking. And it's all things that I'm passionate about. And I made most of my income from it. And now I don't do anything with engineering. But he still, every time I have hard times, every time I have a hard time, or like every time, sometimes like if I work in a job and now it's not working well, and he gives me a phone call, he's like, well, don't forget, you're an engineer. I'm like, bro, I'm not an engineer. It's been like 10 years. Now I didn't work at all in any engineering job, so I'm not. He's like, no, no, but you have the degree. You can always go back and work. I'm like, no, I can't. It doesn't work like
Yeah,
that.
I'm an engineer on paper, but I don't know any of the I don't have any of the engineering skills. So
Exactly.
one of my buddies also studied engineering, and now you know what he's doing? This guy is deporting people. Like he works for Homeland Security, where he people
Oh
cross the
shit.
border. He's
Well, this guy definitely need to go to work for engineering again. He need to look back and get back to his degree.
when you said you were doing filmmaking and photography, like I may be mistaken about this, but were you at any point like in New York City, like where you were sh shooting photos of people and stuff like that, where like tourists would come up and you would you do
Right,
any of
right.
that?
I did it for
You,
almost like 2 years. Yeah, I remember.
yeah.
Yeah,
I remember because I remember you telling me about that, or maybe I might have heard it from a mutual friend of ours about it. And I got to say, dude, that is such a tough gig. Like, so
it
hats
is.
off to you for it is a hard as hell.
It is.
Um, because it's almost like running your own business. And so right after the comedy club with my wife and I was like, oh, let's go to Times Square. So we're
Yeah,
in Times
yeah.
Square, and that's where, and a lot of these guys, these photographers, they're
Right, right,
there, and
right.
we're just kind of like standing, looking around, looking at all the lights, and I'm kind of there's this nostalgic feeling I'm having where I'm telling her I remember being here with my parents when I was a kid, and just even though I commute to the city,
Every day.
I work every day, I work here, but
Yeah.
just being here, it's kind of nice. Just uh, and I remember like two of them came up to us and asked us if we wanted a photo.
Yeah,
And they have like
yeah.
multiple different ways of like asking us. So how was that? Like how if you could talk about that a little bit in terms of like what was that experience like? Because I do think that is one of the toughest jobs.
Right. I really love this gig, man. I wanna say, like, I just love this gig and I really appreciate it so much. And it was also like kind of like in the beginning for me when I moved here to the US from Egypt and didn't have any plan or any that was back in 2016. I didn't have any plans. I didn't know what am I doing, I just wanted to have this dream like, oh, go to Hollywood and just like maybe you're gonna meet some big producer and be a director and you're gonna work with Martin Scorsese someday and all this,
Yeah.
crazy dreams, ideas. Uh, and just you come like you when you travel and you go to a different country that is different from your um they don't speak your same language. They don't have the same background. You don't have the same culture, and you're alone too. It's really
Yeah.
hard for you to navigate sometimes.
It's scary too, I bet, at
It's very,
times.
very scary. I used to be very scared in the beginning, I remember, and then basically it was just a way to make money. Like I just wanted to see like how can I make income in the beginning when you also don't have a lot of skills. Like I remember not really speaking English very well, couldn't really engage in a lot of conversation with people. I used to understand people very well. Like I can understand the whole conversation, but I can't respond back. It's always like, you can't really respond back. And I think that stays with me for almost like 2 years.
I always thought your English was very good, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it gets really developed with the help of a lot of people, from here, and people used to correct me all the time, and just to feel the level of community around you, they make you feel comfortable, you feel like you belong. It's nice. But yeah, and then I found those people. One time I'm walking in Times Square, same thing, and I saw this guy standing by and having his camera in his hand. And I was wondering, I was like, what's this guy doing? Like, is he taking some pictures of, is he like taking pictures for himself or, and I remember walking to him and asking him, and he was kind of like a, not really cooperative. Like he didn't really want to tell me anything, and I found it
Yeah.
really strange. He's like, I don't know, like I'm like, is this is a job? Like, are you working for somebody? Maybe I can meet this person, or and he's like, no, man. Hey, listen, I work for myself. I don't know anything. So I left him, and I went for I went, the street in 42nd and 8th Avenue.
Yeah. Yep.
This is where most of the people they stand there, most of the photographers, and they have their little setup. They have like a couple of pictures here and there, and it's a hustle. It's like, hey,
It's
excuse
that's
me,
yep.
hey, beautiful, would you like to take a picture? Hey, mister, what do you like? I see you guys, a nice couple. Can you kiss? Can I take a picture of you? And it's like a very, very unique way to make money. Uh, and I remember meeting this guy. He was from Turkey. I'll never forget this guy. He was a very, very nice person to me, really. His name was Hussein. And he was a very, 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 very nice guy. Like, he was really helpful so much. And he was like, don't worry, I'll let you know. This is very easy. This is very nice. You can come here. You can work 3, 4 days. Enjoy yourself, take some pictures. And I think he was in school too. Like he was in school and he used to do this to support himself. He was doing his master degree or something, and I did it. I did it for almost like a year or 2 years. And yeah, had so much fun, really. So we used to also walk up to people and be like, "Hey, excuse me, would you like to take a picture?" Mainly tourists,
Yeah.
mainly tourists during
How
like
would you how
Christmas
did you
time.
know they were so how did you know that they would be tourists? And I know so
That's
I,
a good
I,
question.
I so I suspect someone is a tourist when I'm walking in front of them and
Yeah.
they just immediately stop. They stop and then they look around like this, they look around like that.
Absolutely.
And
That's
I'm like, that's
exactly
a fucking tourist. So how would you know that they're a tourist?
same thing. Exactly. Tourists are really like, when they come to New York, it's they remind me of myself when I came to New York in the beginning. It's always the interesting look in their eyes, and they're always like, looking around and feeling like there is something is gonna happen, like they don't believe themselves that they're in New York, and sometimes also they wear like very flashy, kind of like, dress or a suit or like strange hats. Uh, it's very interesting. You can really tell because New Yorker, they're like, fuck this shit. I'm going to work. It's just like they don't really, they don't really care. They're like, get fuck off my face. Like I don't wanna.
Yeah,
But yeah,
that's New
like
York.
yeah, I was listening to I was listening to this joke, and it's for one of my favorite comedians, Louis C.K.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yep,
yeah, I
yep.
love Louis C.K. so much. He's one of the people that I really feel like I like his engaging with people and his the way that he tells the story. So one time he was saying the story that he has a friend, and his friend has a cousin, and she was coming from Boston to Port Authority. And they went to pick her up in Port Authority. I think it was at night. And the way, like, how she was, like, when she came from the Port Authority, she was like very surprised. She was like, what's happening here? And then they walk outside, and there was a homeless guy. There was a homeless guy on the corner. And she just went to him and she was like, "Oh my God, sir, are you okay? What happened?" He just looked at her. He's like,
Get
"What
the fuck out of
happened?"
here.
Yeah, he's like, "What happened?" Like, America happened. New York happened. Like, this is exactly, he
Yeah.
belonged to be there. It's
The
It's
city
like,
will the city is brutal though, and
oh,
I think about that in a lot of aspects. Like it will eat you alive. It will chew you up or even spit you out. It is the city. New York City is really that brutal. And speaking of tourists, about how you said like you could spot them. I mean, some of these European guys, I go, you're a fucking tourist because they've got the tightest jeans I've ever seen it
yeah.
ever. Tight jeans and like short shorts. I'm like, yo, this guy,
We're
and
like,
they
hey,
usually have
listen, we don't
like a
wear
man
those here,
purse.
man. We don't wear those kind of jeans here. This is it's no. One time
Yeah,
I had this guy. I think he was from. I'm walking. I think I'm going to like my lawyer, or I was going to also like going to Macy's. It was in 35th Street. And this guy just showed up to me and I'm standing and he just looked at me like we're standing, before we cross the street with the light.
yeah.
And he just looked at me and I was like, why is this fucking guy looking at me? Like, what's up? Like, what's going on? And then he's like, hey man, it's my first day in New York. And I'm like, oh shit. Like, why you have from all the people you have to talk to me? Like, and I was like, oh, hey, like, enjoy your day. He's like, do you know where can I go? And I'm just walking, and I'm walking. He's like walking next to me, talk to me. He's like, do you know where I can go? I'm like, yeah, you can go to Times Square. You can go to East Village. And then he just looked at me. He's like, no, I want to see some shit. Like, I want to see some people punching each other in the face and throwing themselves. I'm like, bro, like, I don't know, like, this is, you're in Midtown. You're probably gonna see this like everywhere in New York, but I don't know
Yeah.
really. Like, he's like, I want to see some weird stuff in New York. And I'm like, just go back to where you came from, man. Like,
New York people, I don't know why they don't believe me when I say this, but New York at one point was one of the safest cities in the world. Like, I mean, I think post COVID, there's some changes that happened where it's maybe gone a little bad, but New York, if you look up the stats, like it was one of the this is post pandemic, it was one of the safest cities in the world.
right.
Now I think they're like ramping it back up in terms of it was funny, like right after Trump got elected, I swear. So Monday, January 20th was a Monday. He got inaugurated. The next day was a Tuesday. So I went into the office
Yeah.
and I swear to God, I've never seen Port Authority or the Oculus like as clean as it was. There was not one homeless person around in there. And I was
Oh, wow.
like
Wow.
they really like amped up security and I guess surveillance and stuff like that. But it's and talking about surveillance, I sometimes this kind of scares me a little bit. I think about how sometimes New York is just this big surveillance hub because there's
Right.
cameras everywhere.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
Right. That's a very good topic too. Yeah, because I used to have a friend, we're still friends, and he was very, very concerning all the time about surveillance, and he used to talk a lot about it. And it's very interesting, like when you feel sometimes that you're always like watched, and
yeah,
everywhere you go, especially when you go to the World Trade Center and you see those cameras, like with the pole from the ceiling.
yeah.
uh they look very strange and you're like it's a very strange feeling, but I guess also it has a big impact on safety as well.
I
Be
agree. I agree.
yeah, because you never know what's happening, and unfortunately there is a lot of people with mental illness that they're not getting taken care of. There is a lot of people, you have also, I don't know, I mean, there is there's always something going on in the city, and it's a big city, and
Yeah.
you have to be, you have to always be careful. Like,
How did you know like when to avoid certain people when you would be because you were in the middle, like you were in the heart of it,
yeah.
42nd Street. Like how did you know like that person or that group of people like I'm gonna stay away from because they just look like they want trouble?
Uh, Usually, like, if you can really feel that the person is really like having a moment, like if he's like stoned or like drunk, or like you can see like how they walk, or
Yeah.
but I usually not used to go to the after those people. It's like it's a very specific thinking of like who can be your customer, like who can you can walk up to and you can have a nice experience. You can take some nice pictures of them, and then you're gonna get paid in the end because most of the time also you take the pictures and people don't want to pay money. They're like, oh no, yeah, I can. Hey, listen, can you take my phone and take some pictures for me and my wife and or my girlfriend with my phone and that's it, and they leave. So it was about how to sell them that this is a very nice thing. This is a picture you can take home. You can have it as a memory. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I remember always going after the people, like who really dress up like nicely and you can tell that they're like a nice couple. And I used to always go for the couples because you can sense that there is some nice moments. They're like in love somehow. They're like walking in the street and they want to have nice time, in the city. And
Yeah.
you become one of those experiences, making it more nice time for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel like a lot of thing happens in particularly in Times Square and like where you were working at one point.
Yeah.
Now I saw when I was there last week or 2 weeks, 2 weekends ago maybe.
Yeah.
There's they have there's just so much shit happening there. Like even when I'm scrolling on my phone, there's like people who just sit there and who stand and just do like dances there and that are
Oh
going
yeah.
viral.
Oh
They have
yeah.
this thing where like that's in the middle, it kind of goes around and
I saw
it's like
that
playing.
too.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
saw that too. Yeah, yeah.
It, it's and then there's then it really is an experience. I feel like if people who have never been to New York City or would want to come, definitely go to Times Square. It definitely is an experience. It's unique in itself. That performers that like 10, 15 of them like do all these dances and like these street dances and they're jumping over one another and
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it definitely is an experience.
I have to tell you, Amir, I went to maybe like 10 states, traveled state for in every state for like maybe 3, 4 days. LA, New Orleans, Washington, Atlanta, Georgia, Minneapolis, Minnesota, Wisconsin. I never ever saw anything like New York. Uh, Miami, even I lived in Miami for a year during COVID. So I left here and I went there and I stayed there for like a year. And I couldn't also, like, I got bored. Like, I remember after 7 months, I have a friend, she also moved from New York to Miami at the same time. She never came back. She's been there for almost like 4 years now. Uh, but I couldn't. I remember when I was there, me and her, I was telling her all the time, I'm like, I'm feeling I'm getting bored. Like, Miami is very nice. You have the beach all the time, and uh you have also like small cities. You can walk around, you can go to coffee shops. It's very nice. But then after a while, you're like, this is boring, you know? It's what else you can do? But here in the city, with all this craziness, and I totally agree with you, before COVID, it was way safer than after. Like it was way, way safer. I remember not having any problem in the subway, not seeing anybody that can really be a threat to me or like, having a dangerous contact between me or anybody in the subway before COVID. After COVID, oh my God, the subway now is really uh, a mess. Like I used to wake up 5 o'clock in the morning and go to work at 7 o'clock, and it used to be a mess, really. Like people sleeping. Uh, you feel like you're walking in a mental institution. You're not walking in a normal, and imagine you have to deal with this every morning before you go to work. Like it's bizarre. Like it's not really uh, how it used to be before. Like in
Yeah,
2017, 2016, 2018, this is not how it used to be at all.
yeah, I think COVID really fucked up people. People had so much time to themselves. I
Oh
think they
yeah.
just fucking went crazy. Did you see this lady getting burned alive in the subway? Did you see that?
Oh, I saw the video. Yeah. I
Yeah,
I saw the video. That was really scary, man. And they got
yeah.
the guy and he was like, what's really scary also that they got the guy and the guy was like, I don't even remember I did that. And I was like, what? He's like, oh,
Wow.
he's like, yeah, I think he was drunk or something. But I'm like, yeah, I don't know really. Like we all get drunk. Like you can know like you did some stuff or not, but the to reach this level that you say like, oh, I don't even remember doing anything like that. That's really insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't really take the subway. I take the path into the city. But I have colleagues and friends, and my wife takes the subway, and I also depend. What I also hear is it depends on where you're going. Like if you're going into like let's say a nicer area, the subway line is going to be a little nicer. But if you're
Right.
going to an area that's it's fucking sketchy, I mean, yeah, you're going to see some sketchy people on the subway
Absolutely.
for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. But I remember also like it used to be sketchy from the moment that you ride the subway, especially on those very early hours in the morning. This is when it's really, really messed up. Like after maybe like around 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, I think it's way better. But in the early morning, like if you're gonna take the subway at 4:30 in the morning or 5 in the morning, it's a nightmare. Like it's really, really uh yeah, you better not to. You better,
Yeah.
yeah, work around it, like do something else.
Yeah, you're packed in like sardines when you especially in the morning commute traffic. Yeah, it's jam packed in there. So, what was the crazy? What was the craziest thing you saw in a subway? And I'll tell you my story. If anything, if you saw anything crazy on the subway.
Oh my God, yeah. One time I remember I saw this guy and I'm just looking at him and he's like, and I'm like, oh my God, what? You just slapped yourself. Like in my mind, I'm like, what's wrong with this guy? And he started doing it. And he's like, and I'm like, oh, like I just can't. Like, you can be like sitting and something like this happen right in front of you. And that was one crazy thing I'll never forgot. I always remember him for some reason
Yeah.
as like a moment of insanity. You're like, oh, like you just there was also some people like they really smoke right in front of you, and I'm like, how you do that? Like
Just lighting up a blunt.
just light up a blunt right in front of me. I swear to God, couple times happened to me a couple times, and I just it happened to me like I'd be looking at them, and I'm like, are you for real, man? Like with
Like, you're not gonna give me a hit. You're not gonna
exactly.
offer. You're not
Exactly.
gonna
You're not
offer.
gonna offer or anything. Like, come on, man.
Uh,
Like,
well, I guess oddly enough, the experience I remember on a subway was my wife throwing up. Actually, it was her 21st birthday,
yeah,
and she just got absolutely hammered, as anyone should on their 21st
yeah,
birthday.
absolutely.
She got blacked out, and I remember like we were on the subway back from I don't know some club, and
Yeah.
she was just like this, and next thing you know, she's like, I'm gonna throw up, and she's got her girlfriends with her, and she goes, what? Just like all over the subway, and
Oh,
we had to ask some lady for like a bag. Just it kept coming out. So
yeah, yeah.
oddly enough, that was the scariest shit I saw on a subway. Other than that, like yeah, like you see people like begging for money. I've seen some people just like camped out. Like there's an encampment on the subway where they've got like the handicapped section all to themselves, and they're just like camped out with their bags
Oh,
and
yeah. And
yeah.
that too. And that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Um, People blasting Jamaican music. Just I don't know what it is. They've got those giant fucking speakers over their head and
all
just
the
like or
time.
Caribbean
Oh,
music just fucking bumping.
I remember now. One time I was going to work and this guy walked in, and it's like around 9 o'clock in the morning. He walked in with his big speakers, blasting the place. And I remember this woman, I think she was going to work as well. She's all dressed up nice and everything. And she looked at him and she was like, excuse me, this is not allowed. You're not allowed to do this in the subway. And he just looked back at her and he's like, shut the fuck up, bitch. And I was like, oh my God. And then And then she told him, what did you say to me? What did you just said to me?" And he said, "I said, shut the fuck up, bitch." And he slapped her.
Oh shit.
And she got into the fight. She got into the fight with him, and
Yeah.
everybody was watching, and the train didn't even move. Like he slapped her a couple of times, and then the cops came and they arrested him. That was also one crazy thing that I witnessed.
I thought you were gonna say she fucked him up, like she had him in a choke or some shit, but no, I guess
Unfortunately,
not.
not. No, unfortunately not.
What?
He was a big guy, man, and and I guess also he was not really mentally stable as well, and that's another thing. Like you can't really engage in any conversation with somebody's doing something on the subway because you never know. You never know
Yeah,
what you can get hurt. You can get hurt. You can get hit. Uh, like
yeah.
this lady in this situation. Yeah, it's.
I remember we bumped into each other one morning on the sub path, I
Oh
guess,
yeah.
Patron. And dude, I gotta tell you, I gotta apologize for that day because you caught me on one of the worst mornings of my life. Um, my my parents were over. They were over the night before, and we had gotten into an argument,
Yeah.
and it was just not good. Like it was just not a good argument. And they just showed up at my house. Like they just showed up and and it was just not good. So um yeah. And I remember it was a pretty stressful week for work as well. But yeah, and I just and I think about that sometimes and I go, man, when I see Aki, I gotta tell him I gotta apologize for that because that was
No, listen, man, don't worry about it. I think yeah, I
every
remember I saw you this day, you were walking and I was sitting or something. But that's another thing also. Like, I think also the one who to blame here is me, really. Because, I learned also with the days and more time that I'm staying here and the more that I got busier and working and it's really hard sometimes when you wake up and you're going to work and you expect also to be friendly or engaging in
No,
any.
no,
No, really,
that's a completely normal thing to
I
do is
don't
to
think
see
so.
someone and engage in a conversation. You just called me on a bad morning, and it's funny. Like my mornings just start completely different now. Like I wake up, I'll usually have some time to myself, or I'll get ready, I'll make I'll eat some fruit. I don't really make breakfast in the morning anymore just because I'm kind of jetting out the door, but yeah, my mornings are just much more different. But yeah, that was just a bad day for me.
Yeah.
So I wanted to apologize. But no, what you're talking about is completely normal. To see someone and engage in a conversation and be like, "Hey man, how you doing?" Um, but I remember seeing you and I honestly didn't recognize you too at first because you were like super lean.
Oh, at the time,
Yeah, you were super lean. Like you were like built, like you were super like skinny at the time.
I
Not that
remember.
you're not
I'm
skinny
not
now.
now. I'm not. I'm like, yo, I gotta tell you, man. When I was very lean before Miami. I went to Miami. Is something different happened there? I don't know. The food was good, or I have no idea. Like I came back from Miami. I was a totally different person. Like square shape. I was like, oh
Yeah.
my God.
So how long did you stay in Miami for?
Oh, I stayed for a year.
Okay.
Yeah, I stayed for
And
a year, and it was.
what's the vibe in Miami? Because dude, I gotta be honest, I didn't like Miami. Like I thought it was very superficial. I remember being there and like all these people with their rented ass, fake ass Lamborghinis
Oh
and
yeah, I hit this
cars,
part too. I hit this car
and
part too.
all
Yeah,
these girls with their fake tits and their fake asses. It just
that's.
something about it just did not seem real and authentic. Very obviously, like not authentic and fake. So it turned me off. But I did like South Beach though.
Oh yeah, South Beach is really really nice, and North Beach. Oh, I like North Beach more because this is where I used to live, and it's more like family oriented area, and I don't know. Like I really love it. I agree with you with the yeah, it has a lot of elements of like fakeness as well. Especially with like plastics. Everybody's in like plastic surgery somehow. And the fake cars and the flashy, you know, lifestyle at night when you go to South Beach and stuff. Yeah, I'm not into that. I guess I just like the sun pretty much and how it's like sunny and people are more friendly and I just love the beach. Like I used to go to the beach every morning. That was like a really a routine for me.
Yeah,
Uh, um, and I love it, man. I gotta tell you, it was my first time going there, and I remember my friend called me and she was like, "Hey, listen, you want to come to Miami? You want to visit Miami?" Because she left first from New York,
yeah,
and she was like, "Maybe you want to see this place. Maybe you want to take a visit and just like see how it's like." And I went for 4 days, came back again, packed all my stuff, and I went back. I was like, "I'm staying in Miami for now, just
yeah.
to see what's happening." Then. Yeah, like from all the places here, I really fall in love with Miami and New York. Those are the only two places, and Jersey City.
Yeah, JC. Yeah, Jersey City has changed a lot though, right? You would say because you said you came in 2016, and I remember
Right,
in 2016 my parents had the bodega, and we would all be
right,
working there,
right, right.
and so I remember like the changes that Jersey City has gone through, and it's much better now, but I still think it's got a long way to go,
Absolutely,
personally.
absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of stuff really in Jersey City. There's no comparing. Like you can't really compare Jersey City to New York. You know, it's kind of like it's smaller. It's cleaner. It's more family oriented.
Yeah,
Uh,
Jersey City is a fun fact about Jersey City. It's the most diverse city in the United States of
that's
America.
right. That's
And
right.
I love that. I love the diversity in Jersey City for sure.
Absolutely. Me too. Me too. And you can feel it too. Like, yeah, I really left. I went to different places. I visited other states. Also, I was in this era of like thinking, oh, maybe I can move to a different state. Maybe I can see like what's happening, and I couldn't. It just like it didn't feel right. The only place that felt right is Miami, but then it's also, I think it's a very, like, it's the lifestyle over there, it's like way less than here. Like, here you can do stuff. Like, of course, I love movies so much and I'm always in the movie theater. So,
Yeah.
anytime I can wake up in the morning and I'm like, all right, where I'm gonna go today, what movie I'm gonna watch, and you have like big variety here in New York. You have like movie theaters play classical movies. You have movie theaters play 80, 90 films, art films, new films. And I'm just like, humping around in all this movie. Sometimes I go to two movie theaters the same day, watch two
Mm.
different movies. And I'm like, I can't do this anywhere else. I also, I also like to go to like bookstores and read books about movies and cinema, and I can maybe sit down, coffee shop. I couldn't find this in Miami. Miami, basically, it's just you're gonna get some empanadas and cafecito, and just like go to the beach and that's it. That's pretty much was my lifestyle. And I'm like, I can't do this for now. Like I'm a little bit young than this lifestyle. Maybe like when I'm hitting my 50s, my 60s, and I want to retire, maybe I can come here. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of finance bros from what I know in Miami. A lot of the banks, a lot of finance bros are moving there, and they live there and they like that lifestyle. And then of course I'm guessing a lot of like models, a lot
Oh
of
my God,
OnlyFans models probably there.
a lot. Yes, yes, absolutely. It's yeah, this is pretty much it's like everybody's like dressed up. Like even when you go outside, like most most of the people at night, especially like at nighttime, most of the models, they really dress up like, dresses and stuff like you don't really see that people really care about like in New York. People are just here like, they're just going out to have fun. Over there, it's more for a show. Like I'm going out dressing this way to attract somebody, or like, it's always like they have a business plan in their mind. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's very strange.
Speaking of movie theaters and movies, I know you've done some short movies in the past. Like, do you plan on doing any other again? And by the way, is it cool if I uh post your comedy stuff on here? Like,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
okay,
Absolutely.
okay,
Yeah, yeah,
cool,
yeah.
okay, cool.
Yeah,
All
no,
right.
thank you.
But
Go ahead.
yeah, I was going to ask, do you plan on doing another movie anytime soon?
Well, I actually started like last year in developing a story with a few friends, and I filmed a little bit from the story, but I couldn't really finish because of production and uh, work at the time as well, and especially also like time management with when you work with different people and everybody has a job, of course, to support themselves.
Yeah,
It's like time consuming is really like different and hard to arrange sometimes. So we stopped for a little bit, and I'm hoping to get back. Maybe it will be like in the springtime or the summertime when it's also like nicer outside, and we can just like meet and stay and film outside. That's the only thing that I'm working on right now. But it's a long feature. It's not short movie anymore because I've done a lot of shorts, and I met a comedian here a few years ago. His name is Austin. He's very funny. He used to do like comedy sketches, and I filmed maybe 10 or 8 of his comedy sketches, doing camera work for him. So it was very, he also direct everything by himself. He write everything. He get all the crew, and it was very inspiring for me to see him doing all this kind of stuff. And then in the end, you will have like a very good short sketch, good quality, good production.
yeah,
Uh, but I kind of told myself like I don't really want to do anything short anymore. I just want to put myself in a long feature and see like where it goes.
yeah,
It's been fun. Yeah. Like I filmed in some locations in New York and New Jersey. Uh, and the crew, we have like three, I have like two actors and one actress. I filmed some of the scenes in my apartment. I filmed some of the scenes in the streets in New York. It's really fun.
What's a short feature versus a long feature?
So the short feature basically is anything less than it could actually go to up to half an hour.
Okay,
Sometimes people or like some festivals they make it up to like 40 minutes or 45 minutes. And long
okay,
feature is above that. Long feature is above 50 minutes.
okay,
Yeah, so you can be it could be like an hour and 16 minutes. It could be like 2 hours. It could be an hour and a half,
yeah.
and
No one
that's
talks
the
about
duration.
how, yeah, I feel like people don't talk about how hard it is to make a movie. I
Oh,
mean, it's already difficult to like run a podcast, right? I mean, but running a movie, like you said, you've got different pe schedules you got to manage. People have jobs. The lighting has to be, precise. The weather
right,
has to be cooperative.
right,
And then, of course, like if you have a creative vision, you want to make sure that creative vision kind of captures all those things.
right.
So, yeah. And I remember we have a mutual friend, obviously, who's into the movie business. He's also done short films and has submitted his work into film festivals. And I remember observing him doing a scene. It happened, he would do it like 10, 15 times over and over again.
Right.
And I'm like, oh my God, like these. And so I've noticed like these directors, they have this kind of personality where it has to be perfect. Every scene, every cut has to be just perfect. Are you the same way where when you shoot something, when you're directing something, it has to be precise?
I mean, absolutely. Some directors are different than others when it comes to like how everything have to be certain and when they have a different vision of like what they want in the scene. And that's why you can see the repeats. And I remember Austin was really, he liked to do like multiple takes. Sometimes we used to take the same shot for, and I was his cameraman, like I did cinematography work for him. So yeah, it used to be very difficult. Sometimes you go to like 20 takes, 25 takes for the same shot. And I'm like, Austin, I think it's fine. And but that's another thing I learned. You shouldn't really argue with the director uh, at all because it's and he's funny in a way that he will say, okay, yeah, 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 sure. Let's make it again. Like he will listen to what you're saying, but then he will go always what he thinks
Yeah.
or like whatever how he feels that the shot have to be taken again. With my stuff that I've been doing, I think also yeah, I do the same thing. I take few takes, but I don't really go crazy. Like uh I don't really like to go to like 20 takes, 15, 10 takes. It's a lot, honestly. I try as
Yeah.
much as I can if I don't find if I found it like it's not really happening in the first three takes, maybe I will stop everything and I will talk to the actor or the actors and tell them, hey, listen, let's work on this part more. I'm trying to have this feeling here. And I try to go with them about the scene itself and about the background. And I tell if I see them that they're nervous or they're not giving me the performance that I want, especially this is with what I'm filming right now, because all of them they're like first time acting. The actress, her name is Jessica. I met her in a filmmaking gathering group, and then I have another actor, but he's not an actor, he's a model. And I met him also like in networking group, and I just contacted him after. And then I have a friend who always wanted to act, and when the opportunity came, I just put the three of them together. And I feel like, some of them they can get it quickly, but I think it's really important to just talk to them about it.
Yeah.
You have to stop your production or you have to stop filming when you see that it's not going right. And instead of be like, okay, let's go again, cut, let's go again. No, I think it's way better if you stop and you talk them into the good performance that you're looking for, or that's how I think about it. Yeah.
Like, do you see them breaking character, or do you see them overacting or underacting, and then you go in?
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes both. Sometimes they overact and sometimes they underact. And For me, it's like when I'm looking at the viewfinder or I'm looking at the screen and I feel like I just got isolated. This is when I feel like I get
Ah,
isolated. I feel like I got isolated from the whole process. Like I'm not filming anymore, and I don't see anything else around me, and it's just the performance. And when this happened, I'm like, oh, like this is the right thing. Like this is the right moment. This is what I'm looking
okay,
for. Yeah,
okay.
because it
I see
happened.
what you mean.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it happened a couple of times, and I'm like, it's a very good feeling. Like you can feel it right away. As much as you're watching a movie and there is a scene and you're locked in. You're like, oh, like what's gonna happen? Same feeling.
yeah.
Yeah.
Do certain actors or actresses have certain abilities that make you feel that way, where it's like, oh wow, like this person is very special, and they have a certain skill set? that makes you just kind of want to listen to them or gravitate towards them? I'm trying to think of some people off the top of my head. I think about obviously for me, I think about sports automatically. I mean, this isn't, and I'm trying to tie it into acting and
Right.
like I think about like a LeBron James who's extremely gifted, a
Of
universal
course.
star. I mean, anywhere he goes, I mean, all eyes are on him, and he just has this charisma, this magic.
Right.
Have you ever worked with someone that has that charisma, that magic, where it's like when they act, it's like you just feel locked in?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah,
It happened a lot when I worked with Austin on his, because Austin used to really be great in how he can bring a lot of actors and a lot of actresses in his sketches.
yeah,
And I remember since he does comedy sketches, sometimes the acting was not really like a great performance. It have to be acting, but as also you watch comedy stuff as well. You know, in comedy sometimes it doesn't have to be really acting as much as you're saying the lines and you're trying to make funny movements, or like you're trying to make the scene funny somehow, but there is not much acting uh in if especially like if it's like silly comedy or stuff like that. But I remember in few sketches he had some actors, and I remember actually one actress, uh he was going with her like over the scene over and over and over, filming over and over and over, and I remember just seeing her on the set, and I'm like, this is insane. She's like really good. Like she's really, she's not acting. It's like all natural
yeah,
somehow. And then I watched the video after, and she was really great. Like
yeah.
when I watch her performance uh in the video after, yeah, her performance was really great. That was the only time. And the second time is with the actress I'm working with now, Jessica. Uh, she's also new into acting. Her background is mainly theater and live performances. So to be like filmed in a movie or like in front of the camera is totally different. So we did a couple of shots in World Trade Center when she had to do a scene when she's going to work and she's late, and some tourists or like some people gonna stop right in front of her, and she's gonna go like get away from me or like something. But it's all movement, and there is no dialogue. And I was looking at the camera, and I just told her that this is what she have to do. I'm like, you're late for work. You're just gonna have to react like you're late, and you're getting bothered by those people who are in your way. And I looked, and I was watching her doing this couple of times, and I remember at one point I was like, "Wow, like this is really great performance, like what she's doing in." So it's again, it's like you have to talk to them about it, and go with them over and over, and wait for the magic to happen.
Yeah.
That's yeah.
How do you how do you tell them like if how do you see someone where they're just not good? Like this just it's not like they're in the completely wrong lane. Like I don't think you're meant to do this. Like how do you have that conversation or do you just not have it? And it's for them to kind of figure it out on their own.
I never really like had this conversation with anybody yet myself. I've seen some people when I worked in other people work, that I can tell that they're not really actors or actresses, and they can't really act or anything. And Uh, the guy that I'm actually one of, he's a model, so he's not an actor. And I mainly picked him up for his physique look, like how he looks. And I was looking for a specific look. And then when we came to the acting part, I kind of find out that he doesn't really know much about acting. He's a model. So he know how to stand, he know like how to have like a good pose and all of this, but uh, yeah, I think it will require more work with him just to get a performance or like uh to get him saying the lines, I guess.
Yeah.
Different than another actor, another actress. They can just you can just tell them what exactly you want from them and just wait for them to have their magic moment, and you can see that they do actually have performance. Other people like models and people who don't really act, uh, I think the whole thing for them is kind of like difficult. Like to perform is very difficult for them. They might also don't know what performance is. They just like they sometimes they sit down and they just read the lines. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like they're verbatim reading the lines. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah. So it's fun. It's really fun, like to see how people have different ideas of like some of them they have the talent and they have the knowledge and they want to pursue this thing, and some of them they don't have the knowledge and they don't know how this to be done. So, and I guess this is when your role will come as a director or somebody's trying to get those talents together by speaking to them and talking to them about like how they can do better, how they can get what you want exactly.
yeah. It's a pretty. Would you say it's a cutthroat industry as well? The acting industry and the film production industry, just in general. Would you say it's cutthroat? It's very serious.
It's I like to think about it as a very serious profession. It's very serious and it's very hard, but it also depends. Like it depends on like what you want to do. Like you just want to act for acting, just for the hell of it, like just to do acting, or you want to act to become famous. So, because it's like two different, I think it's two different ways. If you work for fame, that's one way. If you work just for the art and to feel about yourself that you're an artist, that's a whole different way.
Mm.
Especially if you want to be an artist, like it's a whole different way. You can find yourself involved in many projects. They will bring your art out and you can develop your skills and working yourself more and more and more. But for fame, it will have to go through different other things. You're gonna have to find how people have agencies and auditions
Yeah, you're
and
probably gonna have to go to a Diddy party, is what you're saying.
absolutely and get your
Yeah.
baby oil with you.
Yeah. What prompted me to ask that question was one of my again a mutual friend of ours. He's been in many film productions.
Yeah,
He's been on set several times, and from what he's told me is like it's a very serious thing. Like, you know, you got to be on. You got to if you're on time, you're late. You got to get there early.
yeah,
Like you mentioned, don't fucking argue with the director.
absolutely not.
Um, yeah. So have you worked on any like film productions where you were maybe a stand-in or you had a line or something like that?
So I did actually work I did work as a PA, production assistant, in
Mhm.
in few TV shows. But it was always like you work as an additional and to work.
What does a PA do? If I can ask that.
So yeah, PA is very like you can have like multiple tasks. So they have like on-set PAs and then they have office PAs. Office PAs mainly they deal with like a lot of paperwork and a lot of dealing with different departments, and set PAs they deal more with uh lock-in locations and making sure that nobody really gonna walk in this area if this area is gonna be filmed. They make sure also that the crew is moving from somewhere to somewhere else, and mainly tasks like this. and you have a manager. His title is key PA. He's the one who runs all the PAs, and he basically will communicate with you and let you know like what exactly your task on this production, what you're gonna be doing. And this was in Wolf Dick production for FBI, I think, the TV show.
Oh, it was a TV show called FBI.
FBI, yeah. So I
Hmm.
did work. I was supposed to work 2 days and I worked only for one day. But it was great. It was like one amazing, that was really like serious, and it was a great experience for me. And then
Yeah.
I worked on another TV show, but as an office PA. That was in Kearney, New Jersey. It was mainly like an internal thing, and it was also for like one day. But then I worked in some documentaries as a PA as well. And with documentaries, it's like smaller companies, a small production. It's like a team of like 6 people. You get to work with the director and the cinematographer and the sound person directly. So that was really, really fun. And that was during COVID, I think.
Hmm.
Yeah. I worked for like maybe, I forgot, like maybe 10 days or something. I think that was really like a long production. Uh,
And is that high stress, fast pace environment, would you say?
uh, Sometimes and sometimes not. Like it depends. It depends on the location. It depends on the type of like the filming. If you have like if you're gonna film with a lot of people that they are really short on time and they have to leave right away, everything will be really intense and everybody was like running around. If everybody had its own time and we have like a whole day of filming, it will not be like a very fast pace. We'll have like some breaks and you get like lunch break, you get a little bit like of time off, you can smoke a cigarette somewhere and come back and be like very chill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any would you any favorite movies that you have? Like this might be a little bit of a hard question for you because I feel like as someone who's a filmmaker who enjoys,
Right.
photography, I know this has got to be a tough question. And honestly, for me, the answer changes for me like every if someone asked me this question once a week, my answer would change every 2 weeks or so because there are so many. I enjoy movies myself,
Yeah.
not so much TV shows. I'm more a movie person, and having watched hundreds of movies, like I've become a little critical of movies, but also like I appreciate
Good,
in terms
good.
of like how like I like the angle, like the camera. I notice like the camera angle if it's a certain shot, I go, well, that's a good shot.
Right, right.
Um, so I've become a little critical of movies, but also I try to step back and say, okay, like it's hard as hell to make a movie. So I try to appreciate the artwork itself. So
Absolutely.
do you have any movies that stick out to you that you would say here are like my top three movies?
Top three movies, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's always like the movies that you feel like you always rewatch them again
Yeah,
over and over and over and over, and you always ask yourself like, why am I watching this movie again? Like there is like tons, like hundreds of thousands of other movies exist, and you still also sometimes don't feel like except going after the movie that you watch 2 months ago or like 3 months ago, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna watch it again.
yeah.
And I think those ones are the ones that are really my favorite. So my favorite movie ever that I always watch it over and over and over is Taxi Driver by Martin Scorsese.
Oh, it's a good movie.
It's a
That's
very
with Robert De Niro, right?
Robert De Niro, yep. Robert De
Yep.
Niro was very young and Harvey Keitel
Yep.
as well, very young. Uh, and yeah, that's one of my that's one of my favorite movies. I watch it over and over and over and over, and I have to watch it every year, maybe like a couple of times, again and again and again.
Yeah.
Jodie Foster also was there was in this movie. She was very little. Yeah, she was like I think she was like 16 or something.
Mm.
But yeah, her acting was really great. That's the first one. Uh, I will say my second movie is an older movie, black and white, Citizen Kane for Orson Welles.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's where um God, what's the thing? What's the secret sauce in the movie where Snowbird or S-
Oh, Rosebud.
Rosebud, and it
Yes.
ends up. Yeah, I remember because I took a film class and I remember watching
Oh,
that movie, and
amazing. Amazing.
that was a really good movie,
That's a great
and
movie.
that's what's appreciate made me appreciate filmmaking a little more after taking that class, and it ends up remind me if I'm wrong, but it ends up being like the Rosebud. It ends up being his snow sled, right? That he had as a
Absolutely.
kid,
Yep.
and he just loved it. But people interpret it as something else
People
throughout the
interpret it
movie, right?
as a woman or as
Ye-
something he lost
Yeah,
or any they had like different interpretation of like what is the last word that he said when he died, which is Rosebud,
yeah,
because he was also this big guy like in terms of like industry and politics, and he was very 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 wealthy and rich.
yeah,
And My favorite part and the funny part is the whole big castle that he built for himself, and he named it Xanadu. And you hear the guy in the beginning, he's like, Xanadu, you got all kind of animals in Xanadu. It's
yeah,
and he built it for himself. And with all of this, and he used to collect the character Charles Foster Kane used to collect statues from all over the world. Uh, every place he go, he will collect like a statue here or a statue there, and basically showing you that this is a rich guy in America, that he has all this money, but he failed to have love. Like it,
yeah. And at the end of the day, it was just about like him being a child, and he was this powerful figure, like you said, in the industrial world and
exactly.
rich and had this Xanadu castle that he built. But at the end of the day, when he was dying, he just thought about his snow sled,
Absolutely.
Rosebud. Yeah,
Absolutely. And it's
yeah.
also fascinating. Like I love this movie so much. I just watched it. I actually watched it maybe uh 2 weeks ago when I took a flight. I was coming from Miami. I went to Miami for a week and I was coming back. I watched it on the plane when I was coming, and it was really amazing experience. Then when I came here, I'm checking the movies in the movie theaters, and I found it's gonna play in Film Forum in the city. That was last week. So I went to watch it for the first time in the theater, and in the theater is a whole different experience.
Yeah, wa
And
watching a movie in theaters is much better than watching it on your phone or
Oh,
on your TV.
absolutely.
It's a
Absolutely.
very immersive experience.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So
Now,
it's
was it, correct me if I'm wrong, was that the first movie that was in color, or one of the first movies that was in color, or was it in black and white? I can't remember.
yeah,
Or was it in black?
it's a black and white. It's not
Mm,
colored, but I think it was the first movie that had that was made by Hollywood and also had like new innovative ways of telling a story. Because
mm,
the movies and the stories before Citizen Kane, they used to have a certain aspect and a certain way of telling the story and certain way of acting as well. And then when Orson Welles came, the studios at the time were looking for something different and new. And he was fresh. He was a theater director and he was new. And he used to do all these plays in Ireland and travel the world. So he had also like new blood in him. And he was 25 years old, young, and he just I watch a lot of interviews with him, and people ask him, "How did you do Citizen Kane?" And he always respond with the same response, by ignorance. That's his response. He's like, I never knew anything when I did this movie. I had one cameraman with me that he was willing to do anything that I tell him, and that's what we did. Like they never followed any structure. They never followed any other director's way of shooting movies or anything. It was like all new, and it became a revolutionary movie. Like it changed a lot of filmmakers' careers and way of seeing films and stuff.
Mm, yeah. And give me a third one. You said Taxi Driver, Citizen Kane. You got a third one? And I'm gonna ask you this
Yeah.
next time I see you because I feel like this list may change, but it may not.
Oh, it absolutely may change. Yeah. I'm trying to think like if there is a movie, I keep watching it over and over and over. Uh, I will say actually Once Upon a Time in America
Once upon.
Sergio Leone.
Hmm.
That's a
I
very
haven't.
good, yeah.
I don't think I've seen that one.
Oh, you have to see this one. You're
Once
gonna
upon a
love
time.
it. Yeah, this one is really, really good. It's also
Is
Robert De
this a
Niro.
g- is it a gangster movie?
Yeah, it's a gangster mafia movie about the organized crime in New York City, like in the early days.
Hmm.
And it's directed by Sergio Leone, and he's an Italian director who
Yeah.
did a lot of spaghetti westerns at the time, and that was his movie of like that was his vision of those type of movies because
Hmm.
it was him, and then there is Francis Ford Coppola with The Godfather. A very diff. It's about also organized crime in America, but
Yeah.
it's in a different way. But this movie, it's amazing because you can tell that he's a different director. He doesn't follow really the Hollywood aspects as well, and he's Italian, so you're gonna see all this. For some reason, the movie has emotions to it, like it just
Hmm.
from everything, especially the music also in the background. It's like it's a very emotional film. Like you watch it over and over, and and it's not fast paced. It's not about like guns and people shooting. It's no, it's about organized crime, but in a very emotional way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like The Godfather, would you say along that line, where it's got an
Yeah,
emotional aspect to
The
it?
Godfather is along that line, but I think The Godfather also it cut to the chase sometimes with the shooting and people dying and revenge and all this kind of stuff. In Sergio Leone, Once Upon a Time in America, it's less like the killing aspects and the shootings aspects are less, and it's more about them as humans,
Hmm.
how they feel about America, how they feel about living in the Bronx area, friendship when they were young, when they grow up, all
Hmm.
this, yeah, all uh, falling in love, uh, all this kind of stuff that you don't really see as much in The Godfather. Godfather has mainly one thing that's really focused on. It's about power. Who has the power? And then you get to see this through families and Don Corleone family, and then even him, Al Pacino, I forgot the name of the character. When he rise up, it's like it's also about the power. It's like he's the middle brother. He's
Yeah.
the youngest, kinda.
Um. Yeah.
Yeah. But then he's
I don't.
like
I forget his name. But yeah, he's in the military and he ends up joining the family
exactly,
business.
exactly. He ended up joining the family business, and everybody look at him like he's not really capable of doing any of that. And he will just take power. And you can
Yeah.
see also like how his father will pass the power to him and tell everybody else, oh, Michael, that was his name, Michael told him.
Yes. Yes. Yep. Yep.
But
Yep. Yep. Yep.
he will tell them, you wanna have my blessings, follow Michael. You wanna have Michael trust, and it's like he's passing the power to his son.
Hmm.
So that's mainly the Godfather. Uh, what is about. But Once Upon a Time in America, man, it's an amazing.
I've heard of that movie so many times. I feel like I may have even watched it, but I don't recall it. And this is
It's 3 hours, by the way, so just to know.
yeah. Like I don't have like the time as much as I used to. Maybe I do. But sometimes I feel like I don't. I just need but I don't have the time as I did like when we were at the store where I would just like watch movies all the time and
Right,
like if a customer came in, I would pause it. I would go into checking them out and go back into watching the movie.
right.
Yeah, those are definitely the good times. But I'm gonna check this out. Once Upon a Time in New York. But I do really love
No,
these gangster movies.
Once Upon a Time in America.
Oh,
No,
Once Time in America.
in America, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely, those were the days. Yeah, I remember also me like sitting down watching a movie after a movie after a movie, and when I have no school or like when I'm out from college and like you're right, yeah, like now it's very difficult because you got your life, you got your job, you got family stuff going on, and you're like, oh my God, can I sit down and watch a 3 hour movie or like a 4 hour movie? That would be like it's gonna take half of my day, you know.
Yeah. That balance is what I'm trying to figure out in life where I could, you know, do some of these things that I'm really passionate about. Like this podcast, for example. Are you watching the Oscars tonight, by the way?
No, so yeah,
You're not. Okay.
when did you start like your podcast and stuff?
So I started it last year in like June, July, but I could tell you that's come a long way because when I first started, I thought that I would have people who were experts in a field just come on and we could talk specifically about those things.
Yeah,
But I felt like it was too forced. It was forced because I didn't know enough about their field to ask them the right questions. But
right,
also I feel like I just didn't know I felt like maybe they really truly weren't, not that they weren't truly experts. Like I just feel like I didn't know enough experts in a specific field. So I felt like let me pivot to just having people on and having a natural discourse with them that I find interesting um
absolutely.
that have interesting hobbies. Uh, so and this feels more natural where you could have someone and it's just more like a one-on-one and you could kind of the conversation could start uh, about how so from photography to now like actually talking about films
Right,
but then
right,
like
right,
in the middle like you spoke about your travel experience and Miami and we spoke about the craziness of New York
right,
so
right.
I started this podcast last year, I would say, but it's come a long way. And this year, I've made a focus to really spend more time on the podcast and have more people on the podcast, learn from others, share some of my experience with them,
That's
and
amazing. That's really great.
yeah, it's a creative journey that I'm on for sure. It's something that I am not comfortable doing. I can tell you that because it's out of my comfort zone. Like I've never done this. So,
Right.
but
But I
it's
gotta
it.
I gotta tell you, Amir, you're really good at it, actually.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, you're doing really a great job. Like this is really, it's been really amazing. Like one-to-one conversation and one-to-one, like, interview.
Yeah,
And I can tell, like, exactly when you can ask the questions and when you can just like listen and to engage. Like you have it, like you have this skills of like an interviewer somehow. Some people has it, some other people don't. So I watch a lot of podcasts too, and it's like it's important. It's important to make the audience feel that they can be involved in the podcast, and they can learn something, and they can just have fun, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's my favorite thing.
I appreciate that. That's definitely high praise. Thank you so much.
Of course.
So the by the way, so the Oscars are tonight.
Oh yeah, I
I've
know.
I've never really sat down and watched the Oscars, but I'm again like going back into making time for shit,
Right.
sitting down and enjoying it. That's what I'm gonna do today. I'm gonna actually sit down and watch the Oscars.
Right,
So
right. No, that's amazing. I think I've been watching the Oscar like every year, and it's only last year I think I didn't really see it. But yeah, I'm looking forward for the one this year because I watched few of the movies. I couldn't watch all of them. So I watched few of them, and there was some great performances and great acting and great directing. So looking
did you
forward.
are did you vote for any yet? Are you
No, I didn't.
okay?
Yeah, I didn't really
Okay.
have I didn't really have the time to like vote or anything, but yeah, I was looking forward to see like what movies are really participating, and then also the fact that Conan O'Brien is going to be hosting this year, so he's
I
really
l- I
I
I was just
love
gonna ask.
Conan. He's funny,
I was
man.
just gonna ask. I was just gonna ask you, like, do you know who's hosting? Because I have no idea who's hosting. But if it's Conan, oh, I'm even more excited because I really do love Conan. He
I
is
do love Conan
funny
too.
as
Yeah,
hell.
he is. He's very
Yeah.
funny. He's amazing. He's been really like a nice host of his show for a long time, and he always bring like great guests and make them talk actually and listen to them. Some other hosts, it's their interviews with any creative person. It's about like it's about them. It's not about the creative person, and it really sucks. So no, that's a whole different story with Conan. So I'm really excited to watch it again.
I
I'm
used
what?
to.
Yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, 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 no. You're fine. Yeah, I'm.
Uh,
I was saying I'm looking forward to watch it also tonight, and just probably it's gonna be funny.
I I used to listen to his show in the morning when I would commute to work. Um, I don't know what it was called, something Coco, Conan and O'Brien and Coco or something, or
Oh
it was I
yeah.
think it might have on Apple Music or Apple Radio,
Right.
and I would be laughing my ass off in the morning, and people would just look at me like, "What is this guy doing?" Laugh. They probably thought I was one of those crazy people that we were talking about earlier,
Probably.
but I was laughing my ass off just like listening to him. And he would have his assistant on there, Sonam Obsessian or something like that, her name. And yeah, so Conan is funny as hell. Does he still have a late night show or has he stopped?
I'm not really sure. I think he still has his show. I think so.
Okay.
I think yeah. I think I still keep watching his show from time to time, or like he will appear, but I don't see it. Uh, as much publicity about it now, especially like in the short clips that they always appear to you, like on Facebook or like Instagram Reels, or
Hmm.
I don't see much of marketing happening with his show. That's why uh, I don't know, because now like everybody's now interested like in politics. So it's like John Stewart's show,
Yeah.
The Daily Show, is like the it's like the high rank show now. Everybody's watching his show. I'm
Yeah.
watching his show, like he's super funny.
Did
And
he take a break?
John
Didn't
Stewart?
John Stewart? Yeah, didn't he take a break for a little bit? Now he's back.
Yeah, he took a break for a little bit, I think, and then they
Yeah.
had Trevor Noah.
Trevor Noah. Yep. Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
so I think the Trevor Noah who was taking his show for a while, and then he's back. Yeah, so but I have no idea. Like I never really followed like why was the break, or like what was the purpose? Was it just a break, or like was it like anything about the show itself, or
Yeah. Maybe he'll come on the podcast one day and I'll ask him.
maybe you never know. Yeah, but
Like,
believe it
John,
or
what?
not, Yeah, believe it or not, he actually does also like a podcast from his apartment or like from his house. And
Yeah.
I just watched one with one of the Democratic Party politicians, I think Cortez, I think.
Uh,
Yeah,
AOC?
yeah, AOC, yeah. So
Okay.
he was doing a podcast with her, and he's in his apartment or like in his house, and she's in her apartment, and it's like similar, and it was really amazing. Like I watched it like maybe a few weeks ago. So with his show, he also does this like podcast and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, so you never know, man.
Pe
Just reach
pe
out to
pe
him.
yeah, people like this podcast form, I think. It's it's nice to see. It's very humanistic in a lot of ways, I think, where you you're actually having a discourse with another person. You're actually getting to know how them and like how they feel about certain things and why they feel about them. Rather, it's not, very filtered and cut like I think a lot of the stuff we see on TV. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this because I I am very passionate about how people feel about certain things and why they feel or why they think about certain things the way they do. So yeah, I'll reach out to that motherfucker and be like, come get your ass on the podcast, man.
Exactly. I'm sure he's gonna love it. Don't worry.
He is from New Jersey, from what I know. Uh, so
Oh, really? Is he?
so yeah, he's
Oh,
from New Jersey.
wow.
So hopefully, New Jerseyans stick together, hopefully. But
Yeah, yeah.
but But Aki, dude, thank you so much for coming on. This was a lot of fun for me. I know we haven't caught up in a bit, but I'm glad we did catch up. So thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for inviting. This has been really amazing, great, catch up as well. And haven't seen you for a while. And thank you so much for inviting me to this. This is great. I really love it. Congratulations. And I hope it will do well, man. Don't worry. You'll have, famous people, and you'll have more like, engaging conversations with other guests and stuff. So congrats and good luck, and thanks for having me again. And I hope to see you in the my 5 minutes monologue in the comedy club, 22nd,
Yeah.
5:30 p.m., 53rd Street and 8th Avenue. That was a commercial.
Sounds good, man.
Sounds good, man. All right, thank you.